Thank you, Manjeet. Delight to now invite Ambassador Sujan Chinoy, Director General Manohar Parrikar Institute of Defense Studies and Analysis, and Chair T20 India Core Group to deliver the opening address. Ambassador Chinoy, if you may please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. First off, let me candidly admit that it will be a very hard act to follow. The eloquence with which the previous two speakers have addressed the audience this evening, but it shall not be for want of an effort and trying on my part. Let me begin firstly by acknowledging the presence of Dr. Samir Saran, Dr. Jaibal Naduwat, our friend Ms. Manjeet Kripalani, the two distinguished ambassadors who have flown down from Delhi, Her Excellency Ina Krishnamurthy, Ambassador of Indonesia to India, and His Excellency Vincenzo De Luca, Ambassador of Italy to India. I also want to acknowledge in the audience the presence of my good friend Mr. Tetsushi Sonobe, the T7 chair, and his esteemed colleagues, Nicola and many others, who have made it possible to come down to Mumbai. But above all, the young people at the back, who, to my mind, are among the most important part of the audience this evening. You represent the future of India, and I'm so very glad that this evening it's an event of Jan Bhagidari, one which brings the entire Indian family together. I do believe that we have a very large number of our happy T20 family here as well. Happy T20 family is something that I picked up a while ago from Ms. Kripalani. Thank you for allowing me that bit of plagiarism. But let me begin by saying that your presence here this evening represents in true measure the ancient Indian wisdom of ayam nija paroveti ganana laguchetasam udara charitanam to vasudhaiva kutumbakam. That it is in fact the large-hearted who regard the entire world as one family. And your presence this evening epitomizes that ancient civilizational wisdom that India has. But hearing as I did the very enchanting stories that Ms. Kripalani had to share about Mumbai as a center in the Indo-Pacific and why Mumbai matters, I was transported to the origins of my own family surname. And let me therefore hit a different note here. I can relate to Mumbai. Mumbai is in fact an emporium of trade and commerce, one with a traditional outlook that is seawards, one which has, as pointed out, had historical links with the Zanj coast of Africa, using favorably the monsoon winds for toing and froing between continental India and East Africa. And that kind of historical relationship continues till today. But this coast was also extremely important in terms of its trade and commerce on the other flank as well. We are all aware how the coast of Maharashtra, the Malabar coast, Calicut, Mamallapuram in Tamil Nadu, all these also had an Indo-Pacific vision. And it is for a reason that the English word calico, representing cotton textiles, comes from the word calicut. And the palyakate, or the scarves that were prepared in India, the cotton scarves, so named Palicut after Calicut, found their way all the way to Nueva España in Mexico through the now de China trade that took place from the Philippines to the New World. So I can relate to that as well, having served in most of the Indo-Pacific countries, including Australia, Japan, China, and the rest. But for me personally, it's a story that I wanted to tell you today. 200 years ago, a young man from a village in coastal Saurashtra, a village called Mangrol, not too far from Chorwad. Chorwad, as you know, is the home of Dhirubhai Ambani. And as you know, it is his vision that is represented today in this great Geo World Center. Our warmest congratulations to the Ambani family for having actually put up this wonderful facility, including the Nita Ambani Cultural Center, one of the finest in the world, that makes it possible for us to interact in the manner that we do today. But that village, Mangrol, produced a young boy called Nanji Jekaran Shah. And Nanji Jekaran Shah came to Mumbai to seek fortune. That was more than 200 years ago. And Nanji Jekaran Shah is my 6th generation ancestor. And mind you, it's an interesting story. He spent a number of years building his fortune and business in this great city of opportunity. He did business with the Tatas in those earliest days. And he also owned quite a stretch of territory in what is today Nariman Point. It was reclaimed land. It was already being reclaimed under the British in those days. Nanji Jekaran Shah had a huge go-down in Mumbai that unfortunately caught fire one day and was burnt to the ground. And his friends, especially the mother of a dear friend, encouraged him not to lose hope and that he should once again stand up and seek fresh fortune. He thereafter went all the way to Kolkata as part of an Act East policy. In Kolkata, he is recognized officially as the founder of the Gujarati community there. The Gujarati Samaj in Kolkata begins with incantations, to his sort of memory, Nanji Jekaran Shah. From there, he followed the Marwadi community all the way to Shanghai, and then became the first Gujarati to set foot as a businessman in Shanghai. Lived there for 12 years, spoke fluent Chinese, made a fortune, came back to India. But what followed thereafter is quite interesting. When he came back with 3 ships laden with his goods and wealth. When nearing the shores of India, he was so elated at being back home after an absence of 12 years, during which his wife had given him up for dead. There was no letter writing in those days, and he was too busy, like Dr. Samir Saran, making a fortune, that he ordered the cannon on board to let off a salvo in salute to the motherland. They used to carry cannon on board in those days because there was piracy. Peace and security has always been an issue all over the world, in those days as well as now. And without peace and security, ladies and gentlemen, you know that there cannot be any development. None of our SDGs can be achieved without peace and security. So when he let off that salvo, the British garrison commander thought that they were being attacked. So he set out gunboats to have his 3 ships surrounded and had him arrested. And my 6th generation ancestor had to spend some time in jail for a short while, but the British were quite fair, frankly speaking. And when he narrated his feelings of elation that had led to the firing of the salvo of cannon on board, the British let him off with dignity, with all his possessions intact. Unfortunately, none of that wealth has come down to me. In fact, the last possession that the family had in this great city of opportunity, I wish I could come back here and make a fortune, is the building called the Chinoy Mansion opposite the Strand Cinema. We own the whole building. I can only look at it admiringly from a distance now. But that is why I am a Chinoy. The short point here is that I'm masquerading as a Chinoy. I'm actually a Shah. And it is for the last 200 years that we took on this Indo-Pacific surname called Chinoy. for that meant people who had traded with China. Now you know what the origin of the name Chinoy is, whether it's an Anglo-Saxon from the United States, whether it is someone from Pakistan or India, a Parsi, a Hindu, no matter who, all Chinoys have trading links with China. And it's a matter of coincidence that in my life I ended up with the Indo-Pacific and China and Japan as part of my professional life. Did you like that story? Yeah. Mumbai is relevant for my family too. I don't want to go into all the other stuff about G20 and all that. It's oozing out of your ears now. If I do that, I might put you to sleep. But there are just a couple of points. I do think that this particular G20 is very different, and it's very important for India, for all of us. And there are two outstanding features that distinguish our G20 presidency from, and no offense to Indonesia. Indonesia had a very successful presidency, but there are two areas which did not find adequate focus in previous G20 presidencies, and they do find the utmost importance in ours. And this is focus on gender equality, which is of particular and growing importance today, and Africa. Again, this vision and outlook towards Africa, the kind of vision that Ms. Kripalani mentioned, the kind of vision that the Prime Minister of India has spoken about. This is something that is unique to the Indian presidency, going beyond the generalities of supporting the global South by particularly focusing on that huge continent that has 54 countries. So we, during this G20 presidency, hope to offer, in a nutshell, a fresh choice to the global community. In an era of polycrisis, of strife, of eroded, emaciated multilateralism, of great power contestation, there is a real threat that the developmental agenda is being steered away, from its rightful place. That greater emphasis is being placed on, other issues, which are no doubt important. But we must understand that the fundamental issues that challenge us today are essentially the great challenges of addressing debt distress, the great challenge of addressing climate challenge, a just and equitable transition, to a green economy. We must also remember that, and for me, as a novice to this field, I feel that the digital world that is now rapidly enveloping us with AI and fundamental transformations, this is something that we have to be wary of. At a time when there is so much of inequality around the world, especially in science and technology, especially the resources for emerging technologies, digital technology offers opportunities but also great risks and challenges. And I fear a world that will very quickly descend into a new kind of digital colonization. I think there is scope here for India to offer its version of an open, digital public infrastructure, the India stack that was referred to. We must help the developing countries of the global South to prepare for this digital challenge as well. In the din today that has overtaken our discourse and conversations, not much attention is being paid to this particular aspect. Of course, there are so many other important issues, and it is hardly the place for me tonight, this evening, to go into any kind of details. I was told, in fact, I was instructed that I must make a few, housekeeping points here, and I will be running a great risk if I did not quickly run through this. I want to congratulate all the task force members for so very ably conducting their work and contributing to the success of the Indian Think 20 work and the G20 presidency in general. This month, happy to tell you, we have completed 50 convenings of the T20 across working groups and as a larger collective as well. We have published 18 policy briefs already and are likely to publish over 400 more in the next 60 days. Chairs and co-chairs of the working groups are requested to kindly scan the briefs that the groups have reviewed and see if we could add some suggestions contained there as part of our task force recommendations. We plan to have our recommendations more or less finalized in the next 2 days during the task force breakout sessions. So remember, it's not all play. There's a fair bit of work here as well. You have a wonderful evening ahead of you, but then you must also sing for your supper. So that by the end of this month, we can finalize the communique. By June, we will have hosted outreach events in every continent. And I must say, behind that energy is really the energy that Dr. Samir Saran, the indefatigable Dr. Samir Saran, brings to the work of the T20 as a secretariat. And do please give him a big hand. Samir bhai, you gave me too many points. It's not my desire to go into any of this. I really want to thank you all once again. Thank you.